Welcome to Garden Sanity. I'm Laura, and this morning I'm going to tackle my imperfect lavender topiaries. I used to call them my woody lavender topiaries, but the woodiness is really just at the bottom, and now that they've bloomed so beautifully this year, I think that now we'll just call them imperfect. Why are they imperfect? Because they didn't start from a perfect singular trunk that's straight up and down and goes all the way around like a lollipop. These literally started from overgrown woody lavender, and at the end of this video I'll put up the playlist so you can see the series of videos and see exactly how I started with the overgrown horrible woody lavender, which did look kind of neat in some ways. It sort of looked like driftwood, and how I arrived at this. So today I'm going to trim these back. As you can see, they're a little bit yellow. The flowers have become kind of gray-black, and so it's time to trim these back. So the two things I'm going to use for this are my Fisker's garden snips, which are very lightweight and very sharp, and my garden gloves. These are the usual ones I wear. They're nitrile coated on one side, fabric on the other. You don't have to use garden gloves for this project. You're not going to get any sap on your hands, but the nitrile coating on the inside palm does make it a lot easier to grip these. So there's two ways you can do this. If you have a lot, you're going to want to do it the second way I'm going to show you. But the first way is you literally can go down, if you just have one plant like this and you want to have a very meditative, relaxing experience with this, is you can just go all the way down to where the long flower stem meets the green and just cut it off. And you can do, it does go fairly quickly. It's just, you're doing it one by one. And what I usually do, let me come around so I can show you this, is I will cut off a little bit of the green. So you see how, and what I mean by green is the leaf growth. So it's more like a blue green. You see the green stem, and then you see some of the leaves. So I will cut a little bit down into there just to prevent anything from getting woody, because that's how we started with this whole thing. So that is one way you can do it. Another way you can do it, which is a lot simpler when you have a lot of plants, is grab a bunch and snip. Now, the reason you might say, well, duh, why wouldn't you do that to begin with? Is because as you do this, you're going to be left with a lot of little green stems sticking out. And what you do after you've done a bunch of those is you'll come back in with the snips and neaten it up. So this is a much quicker way to do it if it's 90 million degrees out, or you aren't really up for a meditative, slow experience and you just want to get it done. So that's what I'm going to do now for the sake of time, is I am just going to snip all these quickly, and then I'm going to put the camera in much closer so you can see what I'm talking about. So now this is all done. I have everything in my bucket. It still looks pretty actually, and it is still fragrant. Could technically use this for something. So what you're going to notice is a lot of green mixed in with the gray-blue. And the gray-blue is what we want. You see this? We want this new growth. It's only August, mid-August, so we still want a lot of new growth, depending on where you are. I'm in zone 7, so of course I'm still going to get a lot of growth into the fall season, which is nice, because these are evergreen in the winter time. This is Lavender Phenomenal, so it's an evergreen variety. And what you also see are, like I mentioned, some of the remnants of the stems that I just cut. So I do want to come back in with my snips, and I want to cut those off as well. So that's what I'm going to do now. All right, so when I'm cutting the stems off, like there's a stem right here, I look at it and I see that there is some woodiness going down. So what I'm doing is I'm going kind of quickly with these stems. because you can see it when you're standing over it. You can really see it nicely close up. Again, don't be afraid if you're cutting off some of the beautiful blue-green leaves. What we're trying to do is just make sure we cut those stems back further. These stems are going to die off anyway, so you might as well not wait for them to get brown and fall off by themselves. You can cut them off now. If I had, and I do have, some lavender like this in the backyard, the same lavender phenomenal, I'm not as concerned if the stems are left on or if there's some stems that just go to brown. It's in the backyard. You know, I can enjoy it. I'm fine with it. But this is up front. It's next to the front door. It's the foundation bed. It's kind of in a more visible spot. So I just want this to look a little bit nicer. You know, now that I got these topiaries working, and they actually, what I mean by working is they bloomed and they look beautiful this year. I really want to keep that going. The other thing that I'm doing is I'm just letting everything drop. You know, these are little stems. If there's some outwardly mess to clean up, I will clean it up, but a lot of this can just go right back into the mulched area and just, you know, decompose, go back into the soil is fine with me. Where did that one go? You might see some hiding. And again, if you don't get all of them, it's not that big a deal because, like I said, they'll turn brown over time and then you'll be sure to see them. But it's an easy way to take care of it now, and then you don't have to worry about the stems later. All right, so now we're all done with this side, and I'll show you what it looks like. So you still do see some green, but it's not so bad. You see a little bit more of the blue-green leaves. And like I said, this is what we want to see. We want to see more of this growth over the next month or two. It's only mid-August, so I'm looking forward to getting some new growth on these. And again, if you do see stems that end up, that maybe you missed one or two, they will turn brown, like this one right here. They will turn brown over time, and then you can easily just break them off at that point. So this is what it looks like, and again, this is the woody base. So this is why I had called them my woody lavender topiaries. And if you've got a little bit of cleanup underneath, you know, that's easy to get out. Not a big deal. This is a Kramer's Red Winter Heath that is going to bloom gorgeously. You see the new buds? All these bright green are flower buds. It's going to bloom all winter long. So that's going to be a nice complement to the evergray of the Lavender Phenomenal. Now next to it is a Lavender Phenomenal I planted from the backyard, and you can see this is going to be close to needing a trim back as well. It's very fluffy. It did really well here this year. I transplanted it in the beginning of the summer, and the flowers are basically done. We do have one or two new ones. The bees are still around, so if the bees are still enjoying it, I'm going to leave it up for a little while longer before I come back and do this plant. So that is this side of the foundation, and then swinging over we have this side, or the other side, this side and that side, I guess that's how you say it. So this is the other lavender topiary, and again I had one from the backyard I also transplanted up here, so it could be in front, giving it a little bit more like 2 levels of lavender. But now I'm going to trim this one. And this one, I'll speed up the video a little bit, but I am going to go one by one and see how that works on this. And when I say one by one, I mean literally going one stem by one stem, like I mentioned in the beginning. But I want to see what that does. You know, that's kind of the meditative way I usually like to do it, and it may mean less work going back through a second time to get off some of those little stems that I left behind the first time. Let's see. See, I've still got bees on here. Isn't that great? There are still, this is the lower lavender phenomenal in front of the imperfect lavender topiary, but there are still some blooms on here. So just like the other side, I am not going to be trimming this yet. And I do love the bees. Can't get enough of those. So here is what this topiary looks like. And you do still see some green on here, but I'll tell you, my vote is the meditative way. It doesn't really take any longer. I mean, yes, I sped up the video so you didn't have to watch it, but by doing it one by one, you do get the stems down as far as you need to go. Here's some nice, beautiful growth here. And you see some over here as well. And there's also a good amount of growth underneath. Let me go on this other side so you can see this better. Let me step over down here. Pardon me. I'm saying pardon me to the topiary. So this is the back of the topiary. And as you can see, we've got some cute little blooms hiding in here. There's another one down there. And this is all the growth that sprung out from the bottom, which I didn't think it would, but it did. And so to answer your question, does new growth spring from a woody base? In this case, it did. Can you count on that happening? No. But when it does, it's a really good thing. So it's one of those questions that's an answer is yes and no. And you will get some gardeners that say, yes, of course it springs from the woody base. Of course it does. I mean, how else does the growth come all the way through these quote-unquote dead stems and then come up here to beautiful blue-green growth or blue-gray? And that is true. But a lot of times when you have this woodiness, it's not going to, for example, you're not going to get any new growth along any of this. This is dead, and we're not going to get new growth from it. But down here, that is beautiful. So this one on this side definitely faces more towards the sun. And then we step back, and you can see the rest of the bed, which looks very pretty. Although what I do see is I definitely need to come out and weed. Again, that is the Pink Diamonds Dicentra, or Bleeding Heart, which can handle sun. How beautiful. That was just planted recently, and look how beautiful it already is growing. With some Dusty Miller, and those are the tiny quickfires in the back. And then I'll just show you a couple other quick things. So this is the Japanese Hellerai, and you can see the bright green is a lot of the new growth that's coming out. And then you have the Kramer's Red Winter Heath, which is also got lots of bright green blooms on it, because the bright green are what are going to be all the fuchsia flowers. This is a blue star juniper behind it that is very happy now that it has a little bit more room back there to spread out. And then look at the lantana. How beautiful is it? This is what I said. Once we get those hot days, usually here in August, well, we had hot days all summer, but in August it really takes off. And I kind of wish it did this earlier in the summer because it's so beautiful, but I look forward to this every year. And so these are the Bandana Gold, and I can't specifically remember. I know I have the name. I'll put it on the screen of that one. And then that is a Blue Star Juniper. And not that I want to leave you with something yucky, but I talked about this ground cover juniper in a recent video when I talked about planting the tiny quickfires, as well as showing you the lavender topiaries when they were in full bloom. Well, look what happened. It's just, something is just killing this plant. And you know what? I give up. I am done trimming away the brown stuff and hoping for the best. Don't know what it is. It did, I'm thinking it is a disease, because we had some in another part of our garden out near the street, and we had to pull all those out right in the apron or health strip or whatever you call it. We finally pulled all those out because they looked so bad. This is also a Cat's Pajamas cat mint that I never took out. And so it's just sort of doing its thing there. But yeah, this is going to come out, and I think what I'm going to do is I will take it out The stones are there because we had rabbits trying to build a nest, which I still wonder if that had something to do with it, because they did chew off a lot of branches of this. So I think it's going to come out, and then I'm going to leave it for the winter time. Give me a nice chunk of time over the winter to plan what I'd like to do here, because I don't know, I always plant lantana here, but maybe I take this out, I've got more room to maybe come up with some fun ideas. So there's a little bit of the good and the bad in my garden. And the most important thing is I got the imperfect lavender topiaries nice and trimmed up. I can enjoy some new growth over the next few months. And again, I'm in Zone 7, Southern New Jersey, so your mileage may vary if you're in a little bit colder zone or a little bit warmer zone. It really depends also on Mother Nature, which I've been saying all summer. You know, if we could have an early frost, or we had an early freeze last year, which kind of did some damage to a lot of plants, could happen again. If we have a mild fall, then I'm going to get a lot of nice growth to enjoy in the winter time when this is nice and ever gray all winter long. So watch these videos next to show you how the lavender I planted in 2014 along the way got very woody, and in 2023, this past spring, I turned them into lavender topiaries. And until next time, happy gardening.